I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about back to school night coming up pretty soon. This video is about how I keep it very basic and how I approach back to school nights. This specifically is talking about an open house style. Your school might do the come in and listen to a presentation style, and you can adapt this for that. But the main thing is that I like to keep it basic and simple to free up time for me ahead of time, and also to free up time for parents. I try to keep everything very light and simple because it leaves room for parents to ask me questions that they're thinking about instead of me controlling every aspect of it. I leave a lot of open time for the parents to ask me questions and for me to spend some extra time talking to parents who like that. When you're thinking about your back to school night, I would encourage you to think about maybe 3 or 4 different things that you think are most important, and make sure you cover those instead of thinking about all the different things you see your fellow teachers do or all the things you hear about online. So when I think about back to school night, I think about 3 things that I want to achieve. The first one is to help the student and the parent feel more comfortable with the first day of school. So I do a lot of things centered around that. And then the second one is to set the tone for my classroom. How do I have an expectation that students will proactively try to understand what's happening, so all my signs and different language are directed towards them, and the different things I have them do help set up this idea of the choices that they have, and that my classroom will have lots of choice in it. The last thing that I do is I want to make sure that I have digital contact with the parents through a different route. So I'll have them access their online information, their email, Class Dojo, and different things like that, and they'll do that digitally. So those are my 3 focuses. You might want to consider what your 3 focuses will be. So how do I set up my classroom? What I do is I have all the students' names posted just before they enter, and because of the grade I teach, they're in cursive and in print, and then I handwrite them just on a whiteboard so that if I have any changes to the roster, I can fix that up until that very night if I needed to by just adding a name. Then they walk through the door, and the very first table is just instructions for the classroom. Pretty brief. There are different stations around the room, and they're told that they can go to those stations in any order they wish, and it might be whatever is empty and what is the quickest. So the stations that I have include, and I'm going to read off on my computer so I don't forget any of them, that I have a folder that has all of the papers that I have to give them from the district, or my disclosure and things like that that I'm supposed to hand out. One for a park, it's a permission form for a park that's close by, so I have that digitally completed. I have Class Dojo because I show parents different videos and stuff from the school year, so I want them to have access to that and their email address. And then I have another one where there's a list of the student numbers, and the kids can put their stuff away in their tote so they don't have to worry about it in the morning of the first day. And then I also have another one that is for classroom supplies that parents want to donate so that the kids aren't lugging around 12 boxes of Kleenex on the first day. Also, I have one where the kids are allowed to choose their own seat. And this is kind of my putting forward the tone that you're responsible for the choices that you make to do your best learning. So they choose a seat where they think they can do their best learning, and it's kind of an interesting conversation to overhear with their parents to see how much their parents guide them and how much the student actually takes charge of that. So that's kind of interesting to listen to. We also I have a questionnaire as one of my other stations, and this just helps me get to know about students academically and socially so that I can start at the very beginning of the year. If they need help with reading, I'm going to be able to start that right away. If they are feeling anxious, I'm going to be able to talk to them on a little bit different way than I would if someone's not struggling with that. So it's just it's kind of the longest station, but the kids the parents and the kids can do it together, and there's a QR code. The very last thing I have is a snack, and I'll tell you a short story about that. I used to not do that. I kind of was a little resentful about feeling like all my teammates were providing these snacks and all these cute little individualized snacks for the students coming in. And so I kind of rejected that. I felt like I was doing so much stuff. I didn't want to do a little personalized snack. If you want to do that, that's fine. No judgment from me. But my granddaughter, who was in first grade last year, I asked her how her back to school night went, and she said, "It was great. I got a snack." And I thought, wow, of all that stuff the teacher did, the thing she remembers is the snack. And I said, why was that so important to you? And she said, because it made me know that my teacher cared about me, because she thought I could be hungry and gave me something. So from that point on, I've been, for parent-teacher conferences and back to school night, I provide just a little Rice Krispie treat, nothing personalized, but a Rice Krispie treat for the kids. And I try to get enough that if they had a sibling or something with them, they could get a second one. But yeah, I include that all the time now. I used to not, but now I do. It seems super duper important. Another thing I have is an introduction of myself playing on my monitor. So it kind of introduces who I am, my background, my experience, my credentials and things like that. So there are some things that I don't do anymore that I used to try to incorporate in back to school night, but I've dropped them. I don't try to tell them all of my policies for the whole year. I stick to the things they're going to need right away, first day or two, and then every few days or once a week for the first month, I will send home an email to parents that explain very specific policies, like the homework policy or how we do birthdays. I do them one at a time so they're isolated and the parents are more likely to remember them. Another thing that I don't do anymore is volunteer sign up. I know there's teachers that sign up for all the parties they plan for the year, but I figure the parents don't really know their schedule at that point. So if I have a party coming up or some sort of event that I want parents volunteers, then I will send home an email. Another thing that I don't talk about at back to school night is homework, and I have a folder that I have another video on, and I send that home the first day of school so the parents learn about it there instead of me spending time at back to school night, because they're not going to remember. Nothing against the parents at all. It's just so much information. They might even have additional children. So I just don't even cover that. I send it home the first day of school. The other thing I don't do is extreme, super fancy decor, and I don't decorate the room with the students' names. For example, I know other teachers who have cute little cards and they have everyone's names printed on them. I don't do that because your roster can change. Also, I don't do a ton of decorations just because it can be very distracting for the classes in the classroom, and then I don't want to spend a lot of time on it for back to school night because my classroom is for learning, not my living room. So those are my basic stations. A lot of independent interaction with those stations from the parents and the students. That kind of establishes this idea that you're going to be working independently and you're going to have to make some educational choices, and you have some responsibility as a student in my classroom. Well, I hope these ideas are helpful to you to have just a basic back to school night. Of course, you can add as much sprinkles and glitter and glamour as you want to, but that's what I do. I keep it very basic, and I think it's helpful to the students and the parents because it's not overwhelming. My hope is that it's just enough to get them comfortable with the first day of school. I hope these are helpful to you, and I hope you will subscribe and watch more videos about different things that you can do to keep things basic and average so that will free up time for you for other things that you want to do in your life. Remember, you are plenty, and it's okay to be an average teacher.